You never know what someone is going through. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can mean the world to someone who needs it the most. In today's video, we're sharing the most heartwarming, selfless, and truly unforgettable random acts of kindness caught on camera. From strangers helping those in need to heroes who went above and beyond, these moments will restore your faith in humanity. So grab a tissue, because some of these stories are going to hit you right in the heart. And before we begin, if you believe the world needs more kindness, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let's spread positivity together. Now, let's get started. When winter hits, life becomes even harder for the homeless. One freezing afternoon, a store employee noticed a homeless man outside, shivering without shoes. Without hesitation, she removed her own favorite pair and handed them to him. The look on his face? Priceless. A moment of pure gratitude and warmth in an otherwise cold world. A cyclist was being attacked by two robbers, struggling to hold on to his belongings. Just when things seemed hopeless, a woman named Tammy ran out of her house armed with a shovel. She didn't hesitate for a second, charging toward the attackers, shouting at the top of her lungs, "The robbers?" They ran for their lives. Tammy proved that heroes come in all forms, and sometimes a shovel is all it takes to save the day. A hard-working construction worker's car broke down on his way to a job. With no money for repairs, he was stranded. A nearby taxi driver noticed his distress and, instead of just driving away, got out and spent an hour fixing the car without asking for anything in return. The worker offered to pay, but the taxi driver simply smiled and said, "Just help someone else when you can." That's the kind of kindness the world needs more of. A train had to make an emergency stop after a passenger spotted a young boy on the tracks. Turns out, he was an autistic child who had wandered away from home. Passengers and crew members immediately stepped in, comforting the boy and ensuring he was safe until his mother arrived. It's moments like these that remind us the world is full of compassionate strangers, ready to help. For 70 years, this elderly woman had been in a wheelchair, never once stepping into the ocean. Two kind strangers noticed her longing gaze toward the waves. Without hesitation, they lifted her up and carried her into the water. Her smile, pure joy. Sometimes it's the smallest gestures that create the biggest memories. A little boy had an amazing firefighter helmet, but it didn't fit properly. A firefighter noticed, took a moment, and carefully adjusted it so it would sit perfectly on his head. It might seem small, but to that child, it was everything. Kindness isn't about big gestures, it's about the little things that make someone's day. On Christmas Eve, a homeless man was sitting alone, shivering in the cold. A passerby handed him a brand new winter coat and a warm meal. The man's face lit up with pure joy. A moment that reminded us giving is the true spirit of the holidays. While some kids play pranks like Ding Dong Ditch, one little boy did something different. Instead of running away, he left a heartfelt note of kindness on a stranger's doorstep. The message? "I hope you have an amazing day." Such a small act, but one that could change someone's mood completely. At an awards ceremony, a young athlete walked up to the podium. But instead of keeping the medal, he turned to his mother and placed it around her neck. He knew that behind every great achievement is someone who made sacrifices. Sometimes the best way to say thank you isn't with words, but with actions. A lonely elderly man came into a restaurant, quietly eating by himself. A waiter noticed and sat with him, talking and sharing stories. For that man, the meal wasn't just about food, it was about feeling seen and valued. A car stopped in the middle of traffic. People honked, impatiently waiting. Then, they realized a blind man was trying to cross. Before anyone could react, a young boy jumped out of his seat, ran up, and guided the man safely. That's the kind of kindness that doesn't need recognition. It's just natural. A truck carrying hundreds of watermelons accidentally tipped over, spilling fruit everywhere. Instead of ignoring it, dozens of strangers rushed in, helping pick up every last one. It was a moment of pure humanity helping, not because they had to, but because it was the right thing to do. A young boy noticed his classmates sitting alone during lunch, staring at an empty tray. Without hesitation, he took his own lunch and split it in half, giving his friends something to eat. Sometimes, kindness is as simple as sharing a meal. At the checkout line, a mother realized she didn't have enough money to pay for her groceries. Just as she was about to put some items back, the woman behind her stepped forward and covered the bill. The mother's tears of gratitude said everything. A hospital nurse noticed an elderly patient who never had any visitors. Instead of just doing her job, she took extra time every day to sit with him, talk, and even read him stories. Sometimes a little attention can mean the world to someone. A bus driver saw a scared, shivering dog on the side of the road. He stopped the bus, picked up the dog, and kept it warm until an animal rescue arrived. A little kindness saved a life that day. A waitress struggling to make ends meet got the surprise of her life when a stranger left a $1,000 tip on a small bill. A note on the receipt read, "For all the kindness you give others." A construction worker nearby noticed, walked over, and personally helped him across. A reminder that helping each other is what truly builds a better world. A coffee shop employee started writing uplifting messages on customers' coffee cups. One woman broke down in tears after reading, "You are strong. You are loved." It was exactly what she needed that day. A man experiencing homelessness found a wallet full of cash. Instead of keeping it, he tracked down the owner and returned it. His honesty touched so many that strangers donated money to help him get back on his feet. A teacher noticed some of her students couldn't afford school supplies. Instead of waiting for someone else to help, she went out and bought everything they needed. No child should have to struggle for an education. A little girl found a cold, hungry kitten on the street. She carefully wrapped it in her jacket and took it home. That tiny act of kindness gave the kitten a second chance at life. During a house fire, an elderly woman was trapped inside. A firefighter carried her in his arms out of the burning building. She later called him her guardian angel. A stranded driver was stuck on the side of the road with a flat tire. Before she could call for help, a passing cyclist stopped, pulled out his tools, and fixed it himself. Some heroes wear helmets instead of capes. In the middle of winter, one family hung dozens of warm coats on a fence with a sign that read, "If you're cold, take one." Compassion like this makes the world a warmer place. A police officer noticed a homeless man sitting in the rain. Instead of just walking by, he went into a restaurant, bought a meal, and sat with him. He didn't just offer food, he offered kindness. A little boy told his parents he didn't need any more toys. Instead, he donated all his birthday gifts to a children's hospital. At just 6 years old, he understood that giving is better than receiving. A military veteran sat alone at a restaurant when a stranger quietly covered his bill. When he asked why, the person simply said, "Thank you for your service." A busy intersection, cars honking, people rushing by. In the middle of it all, an elderly man struggled to cross the street. Just as the light turned green, a woman stepped out, holding up her hand to stop traffic. She gently took the man's arm and walked him across, ignoring the impatient drivers. It was a small moment, but one that reminded everyone watching that some things are more important than being in a hurry. A mother and her 2 children sat at a diner, nervously checking their wallets. The waitress noticed, smiled, and continued serving them. When the bill arrived, the mother's face fell. But before she could say anything, the waitress slipped a note onto the table. "Your meal is on me. Enjoy your time together." A man sat barefoot at a bus stop, his feet swollen and blistered from walking. When a bus driver pulled up, He removed his own shoes, walked over, and handed them to the man. A struggling student sat at his desk, staring at his textbook in frustration. Instead of watching him fail, his classmate pulled up a chair and began tutoring him after school every single day. By the end of the semester, the struggling student aced his test. A simple act of kindness changed his future. Most kids spend their allowance on candy or video games, but not this little boy. Every week, he saved up his money until he had enough to buy toys. Then, he walked into an orphanage and gave them all away. The children's smiles were his only reward, but that was all he wanted. After a family lost a loved one, a stranger left a basket on their doorstep. Inside were groceries, flowers, and a handwritten note. "You are not alone. Thinking of you." The family never found out who sent it, but it was exactly what they needed. A house fire destroyed everything a family owned. But what broke their hearts the most? Their terrified dog. As firefighters cleared the scene, one of them sat beside the shaking dog for hours, gently petting it until it felt safe again. Not all heroes wear capes, some wear fire gear. A sudden downpour caught everyone off guard. A young mother struggled to cover her crying baby. Seeing this, a stranger handed her his umbrella and walked away into the rain, getting soaked himself. A musician played his heart out on a street corner, his case filled with coins, instead of keeping the money, and donated every single dollar. That night, dozens of people ate because of his generosity. A woman sat anxiously in a doctor's office, worrying about her bill more than her health. The doctor walked in and handed her a paper. But instead of an invoice, it said, "Your treatment is covered. Focus on getting better." For that woman, it was a life-changing act of kindness. Every Sunday, a barber sets up a chair on the sidewalk and gives free haircuts to people living on the streets. A fresh haircut may not seem like much, but for those in need, it's a new beginning. Instead of selling all his crops, a farmer left baskets of fresh fruits and vegetables on doorsteps with a simple note: "Take what you need." No cameras, no recognition, just pure generosity. A struggling mother walked into a restaurant with her child, counting her coins. The owner smiled and said, "Order whatever you want. It's in the house." They left full not just with food, but with hope. A military veteran faced overwhelming hospital bills. One day, he checked his balance and it was paid in full. To this day, he doesn't know who helped him, but he prays for them every night. At dawn, an elderly couple woke up to find their driveway completely shoveled. A teenager had done it before school, without being asked. They never knew who it was until they saw a small note in the snow. "Have a great day." A police officer saw a woman putting diapers back on the store shelf, unable to afford them. Without saying a word, he bought the diapers and handed them to her. She hugged him, crying, whispering. A freezing man shivered on a bench, hugging himself for warmth. A stranger walked by, saw him, and took off his own coat, placing it around his shoulders. No words, just kindness. Wow. If this video didn't warm your heart, I don't know what will. We just witnessed how one small act of kindness can create a ripple effect of hope and love. Imagine if we all did just one good deed today, how much brighter the world would be. Now, here's the challenge. Go out and spread kindness today. It could be a smile, a compliment, or helping someone in need. And when you do, come back and tell us about it in the comments. Let's keep this kindness train going. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so we can keep filling your feed with positivity. And if you know someone who needs a little faith in humanity restored, share this video with them. You never know whose heart it might touch. Remember, kindness costs nothing, but it can mean everything. Stay kind, stay compassionate, and I'll see you in the next video.